Let me bring in the guests who are joining us now. Mohammad Kamruzzaman is a journalist joining me from Bangladesh. We have Ambassador Pinak Chakravarty also joining us. I'm going to begin with you, Mr. Kamruzzaman. There are concerns, of course, because of the statements coming in, particularly with regards to anti-India statements or the sentiments largely. Is this organic public anger, or is it orchestrated political strategy ahead of the February elections?
Maria, thank you very much for having me. Actually, I think that Bangladeshi people actually not anti-Indian, and even Usman Hadi that you mentioned, he was also not anti-Indian. Actually, Bangladeshi people are concerned about Indian hegemony. Sometimes Hadi also said several times he was concerned about Indian hegemony, not the general Indian. So the Bangladeshi people have very good connectivity with India. Many people go to India for treatment, for tourism. People visit India. So friendship to people friendship is very normal. Fact is that during Sheikh Hasina regime, India very nakedly supported her, according to people's criticism, I'm saying, and even three very naked election boycotted by all political parties, but India supported. So people considered it as very naked interference in Bangladesh's internal affairs. That's the problem. But people actually not very anti-Indian. People want, because we have cultural connectivity, we have many similarities. So people actually never hate India. People hate Indian hegemony. This is the fact.
But
And
how is that
now,
really an hegemony that you're talking about?
yes, of course, I have already mentioned that regarding election, regarding supporting of Sheikh Hasina, and even just look, during Sheikh Hasina regime, there were heinous murder of Hindu Bishwajit Das on broad daylight by Chhatru League, and it was circulated by all media in Bangladesh. But at that time, there was no sound from Indian side, and even your media didn't cover that event. And even many hundreds of Hindu people's properties were looted by Awami League persons. And at that time, you never raised that it was communal violence, nothing. But just now, after such a big change, 16-year-long authoritarian regime, there are some political events, political chaos, of course, that is not acceptable.
Okay.
And even the Hindu youth who was killed few days back, it was
Okay.
also condemnable.
Okay.
But
There
the
are
narrative is not
concerns.
right.
There are concerns. Ambassador Chakravarty, perhaps you'll be able to explain this better, because you have served in Bangladesh as a high commissioner there. How should India then navigate escalating anti-India rhetoric while maintaining diplomatic ties with Bangladesh ahead of elections?
Well, this is nothing new. We've been through all this before. There was anti-Indian rhetoric earlier, after when Ajit was assassinated. Then later, when dictators were in power. Then again, when the BNP Jamaat government was in power. So this is nothing new as far as we are concerned. We've been handling Bangladesh.
Ambassador, I'll just try and fix your audio because there seems to be some problem with your network. I'll come back to you in just a bit, but let me also continue with Kamruzzaman while the PCR actually fixes that line. Mr. Kamruzzaman, the question is the role of the political parties. The fact here is that Sheikh Hasina's party may not be be allowed to participate in these elections which are scheduled for February next year. In this political vacuum of sorts which has been created, is there a fear that the radicals could occupy that vacuum?
No, why do you think that it's a vacuum? We don't think it's a vacuum. Actually, you know that it is people's right to think freely. Actually, Sheikh Hasina destroyed democracy completely. There is no election system. People were deprived of voting rights. So you saw last year's mass uprising. Hundreds of thousands of people from all walks of life came to the street. So it was like a revolution. So after that revolution, or in the wake of that mass uprising, Sheikh Hasina fled to India. And even Hasina government's second man, Obaidul Qadir, told in publicly that if our League falls, it means that 500,000 people maybe killed on the streets. So it was their even assessment because of their activities. So they doubted it, but nothing was happened like that. So Hasina fled, most of the Army League leaders fled after committing crimes here. So now this is not a vacuum. They may come to they may come and they may face trial and they may participate and they may case against if there is any unthing, but they fled because they committed crimes. So this narrative actually not correct according to me, as I am from a ground reporter. That will not, this vacuum will not be filled by radicalism. Even you saw that here in Bangladesh actually Hindu, Muslims, even now except some distant incidents, people are living together.
Okay.
Even Jamaat Islam that you are mentioning as radical party, there is a Hindu candidate who is contesting in the upcoming national election. So actually communal harmony here very fine, but there are some political chaos, political conflicts. It should not be labeled as communal violence.
No, but the manner in which what you are saying is just political conflict means targeting of all those students who are part of the student uprising which Bangladesh saw, which led to the interim government of Muhammad Yunus. There is a targeted killing of those students which is happening. How will that be justified then? In fact, I can see Ambassador Chakravarty now joining us. Ambassador, you say that there is nothing unusual, or should I say, about what is happening in Bangladesh right now. But given the kind of radical, view, or should I say, unrest which is playing out on the streets, do you see this also as nothing unusual?
No, when I said unusual, I meant that such turmoil has happened before in Bangladesh in different forms. And this is a different form altogether. And it is a complicated situation where there are a lot of players involved. I would dare to say that there was a lot of external interference when the agitation ended, but then it was revived to oust Hasina. No, ousting a government which was elected in whatever manner people felt it was not free and fair. But then when some external actors got together, it became a regime change operation. And so we must look at it geopolitically in that context. At the micro level, what is happening is a different matter. The Islamists are basically running the show now. So, and their agenda is very clear. They have the support of Pakistan, which means that they will have an anti-India rhetoric going on. But rhetoric is one place, but the reality of geopolitics is another. So I feel that the rhetoric is there, but then that rhetoric cannot be translated into reality.
Okay.
And as soon as they realize, all these immature student leaders and others who are very high on rhetoric, it's best that they fight an election, and when they come back, then whatever policies they are spouting now, they can put into effect. India will wait for that. India is willing to wait for a proper election, and where it's free, fair, credible election. And India is always willing to deal with any government that comes to an election process.
But sir, attacks on the Indian High Commission, does it not signal rising hostility? And then what steps can India take immediately to safeguard its interests? This while Bangladesh has called protests outside Bangladesh High Commission regrettable.
Well, that's a narrative they are building up because they could not control the mobs that were attacking our missions. That's, a few people standing outside making slogans is quite different from what the mobs in Bangladesh were trying to do. Although their police was there, they tried to stop them. But I think the police there also is under constraint. I think this is all a very well orchestrated demonstration and all these things. It is basically to convey a message that, people are very angry, they are anti-Indian, and hence, or I think, as some people have alleged, that all this kind of anarchy is meant to postpone and avoid elections by the powers who are controlling. The current regime is being controlled by the Jamaat-e-Islami and other Islamists and the student leaders. But then, they, in my view, may feel that the elections will not send them to power. And that is the reason why they wish to postpone the election. I hope it is not postponed. But I think there is a conspiracy to postpone, because otherwise why have this kind of orchestrated violence? It's quite unbelievable.
Okay.
And I think the Bangladeshi regime today lacks legitimacy. And I think the sooner they have elections and allow a properly, constituted government through elections to come to power, it will be better for both countries. It will be better for Bangladesh. All this rhetoric is not going anywhere. It's not leading to any solution.
So, Mr. Kamruzzaman, my question then would be about long-term consequences of what is being seen as a radical reset, and what does it do to the regional stability as well? And can the elections be postponed if there is a larger conspiracy to postpone these elections?
Actually, according to the government sources, they are very determined to hold the election. But of course, there is some confusion. And even I am also a little bit confused whether the election could be held in the prevailing situation. But
Okay.
what you are saying, I am not agree with you totally, that a long-term communal violence and consequences. No, Bangladesh is a country with very communal, peaceful environment. Some distant incident, and in most cases there are sometimes personal conflicts, personal clashes, or some property related clashes, but overall communal harmony is very strong, and
Okay.
Hindu Muslim live
We
very
have
peacefully,
Asif
so
Bin
this is
Ali
not
also
wrong.
joining us. He is a documentary filmmaker from Bangladesh and also an academic. Asif, thank you for joining us. My question would be about radical ideas which certainly appear to be gaining ground among Bangladeshi youth. Then the question would be, is Dhaka now tilting towards extremism? And if yes, why is this primarily ideological, or is this more of a reaction to what is being seen as political and economic instability in the country?
I wouldn't deny that there is a certain amount of radicalization have happened in the society in last 10, 15 years. And there are, of course, reasons to explain that. And one of the reasons was the absence of democracy in the country, and also the overemphasis on religious educations compare while the secular education system has been weakened in last 15 to 20 years. So these are the culminative impact that we are seeing. However, one thing we need to understand is that whatever you are seeing in Bangladesh, I do understand you are seeing it from the Indian perspective, and which is totally all right. What I am trying to say here is that the kind of violence we are seeing in the ground, as Pinak sir was rightfully saying, it is also an orchestration of power to postpone the election in different ways. And the reason is that, you see, even if you look at the country's larger political demography now, the centrist and the liberal and the secular political party has the highest number of vote compared to the Islamist, even though the Islamist percentage has increased. Like, I can refer all five surveys that have been conducted in last 6 months, and which shows that on an average 5 to 8% of increase in the Islamist vote, but still they are one of the party, not the main party. And if you combine like rest of the parties together, then of course Islamist is still not the party that can form the government. So what happened is that the current government, in many ways, they have failed to bring the stability back. And in that situation, some groups may have thought that maybe by doing this kind of violence, they would be able to postpone the election to delay people's mandate. And by doing so, they can postpone of taking over an elected government. So rather, instead of just seeing it from the threat perspective, what I would be like arguing for that that Bangladesh is struggling with its transition process.
Okay.
And in that transition process, these elements, particularly the elements you are seeing, like burning down the newspapers, killing, citizens, lynching them, or like destroying government properties. This is basically creating a fear so that, people do not think of having a free, fair, and participatory election,
Okay.
and then they don't come out for
Okay,
the vote.
Asif, before I end this discussion, one more question to you. How significant is the foreign influence? What is being seen as an influence from, say, Pakistan, China, or Turkey in stoking this unrest and shaping anti-India narratives in Bangladesh?
Look, definitely there are different theories about the foreign influences, and depending on which bloc you belong, you use those frameworks. But as an academic, I have to have like concrete evidence of making any argument on that. However, by saying so, I am not denying that there is no other actor playing role there, but also like the element that are operated there, this is also very much homegrown. Of course, they may have got some aid or some kind of influence. It could be ideological. It could be like some of the, money-related things. But largely, the forces we are seeing on the ground, they are homegrown. And also regarding the economic model, like today in the earlier, I was attending another show, and they were like talking about the conspiracy regarding the cryptocurrency and others. Trust me, those who follows the Bangladesh politics, it is still analog in many ways. And one of the funding sources is charity, not the cryptocurrency. Now, these words sounds very fancy when we are sitting in a bubbles. But then when you go on the ground, you would see like these groups, they actually collect money in a collective way from Jakat and others, and that's how they fund them. Now, that doesn't mean that they are not misusing or abusing it. What I'm trying to say is that the problem and the forces that you are seeing right now, they are purely homegrown, and they share a kind of idea which majority of the Bangladesh rejects, and that would be evident if there is a free and fair elections.
Okay.
But up until then, it depends on how we explain these phenomena and which framework and from which perspective we explain them.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Pinak, Chakravarty, Asif Ali, and Mohammad Kamruzzaman on the news track tonight. That's all from me. We are putting out this entire discussion on our website and also on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching.